Hello my lovelies, welcome to my little cottage by the sea, the place where I love to stitch and craft my way to a vintage inspired and sustainable lifestyle. Over the last few months I've been spending a lot of time delving into the world of various artists and the way in which they live their life, the way in which they dress. And I've been sharing all of this over on Tara Stitch Coven in my monthly talk, which is all about fashion history and culture. And I've really been focusing on the way in which fashion and art intersect. And it has been one of the most beneficial, inspiring, joyful things I've done in quite a long time, and I would say it is absolutely the main reason why my sojo has come back at full-on rock and roll level. Now, one particular artist has been even more inspiring than I could possibly ever have thought, because although I really loved her art and knew she was a fabulous artist, she always looked striking in the photos that I'd seen of her, I didn't know that she had such a singular vision and such a strong, incredibly interesting sense of personal style. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about and sharing some of the style and life lessons from Georgia O'Keeffe style icon. A lot of the research I did on Georgia O'Keeffe informed my vintage utility capsule collection video, and it was really the moment when I just started looking beyond the limits that I'd set for myself in terms of how I wanted to dress. I was in a bit of a transition, and I also did a video on this when you're having a style crisis, some of the things that you can do to help yourself. I always look at inspiring people. I call them my mentors and muses, and Georgia O'Keeffe most definitely has become one of my mentors and muses. It's not that I want to wholesale copy her entire look, but I just feel that there are a lot of takeaways in the way in which she dressed. So I've put together some boards that are focusing on, in this instance, her casual look, the clothes that she wore at her house in Abiquiu and Ghost Farm in New Mexico near Santa Fe. And she had a very distinct sort of work professional wardrobe that was very much suiting, monochrome, and that's how she liked to be photographed. But she also had a lot of more casual photos taken, and she wore other colours as well, not just the monochrome, the black and the cream and white that looks so striking in these photos that many photographers took of her. So I've put together some of my sort of favourite looks with pattern and fabric suggestions, and I've created boards. I'll pop these boards up on my journal, I think, because they may be quite useful, but all the links that I can possibly link will be in the show notes down below. I'm armed with a rather huge cup of tea, and I realise that whenever I'm drinking I get all the lipstick and it starts smudging around my mouth, so I am very sorry that you might see some smudging going on, but excitement, what can I say? And then I've got my boards on my phones. Before we start looking at particular looks and pattern suggestions and fabrics that I would want to use, I thought we could just have a little chat about fabrics and colour, because she was very specific about her colours. As I've already said, she had this very monochromatic wardrobe that was her more professional look, but she also had a real love of Western style and what may be not correctly termed as cowboys these days. She loved the terrain of New Mexico and she dressed accordingly. She was a very outdoors person. She loved to go camping, and this required a casual wardrobe. So I've taken 3 paintings that I particularly love, and these have dictated the colours that I have chosen for these particular looks. Of course, you go with whatever it is you particularly love. And most of the fabrics that I've chosen, if not all of them, are actually from Merchant & Mills. I'm having a bit of a love affair with Merchant & Mills at the moment. We have these skull paintings, and I love these too. These were skulls that she would have found in the desert, but I love the fact that they've got a flower with them, and then the muted colours, and then this beautiful pansy and forget-me-not in these sort of blues and black shades, which were kind of making me think of the indigos and denim, which you will see she loved to wear. The thing about the fabrics that Georgia O'Keeffe chose, and one of the reasons why I've really looked at Merchant & Mills, is just because she chose very good quality natural fabrics as far as she possibly could. In her archive there are actually bolts of cloth and so on. She was a really accomplished seamstress, and when later in life she didn't sew herself, she'd get other people to sew things for her to her own requirements. She always seemed to focus on the best quality cloth that she could buy and really beautiful detailing. This first outfit is inspired by this photo of Georgia at her home in New Mexico, and it's this lovely top and skirt look, checkered skirt. I have chosen here the Bella Loves Patterns Rosie shirt. Even though the shirt that Georgia's wearing isn't a button-up one, you could of course do my T block. If you're one of my patrons, there is a whole tutorial and downloadable resource on how to draft a T block to your own measurements and use that. That would be lovely, made up in all sorts of silks and linens, whatever takes your fancy really. But I really love this sort of dolman grown on sleeve look. I've never used this pattern or this pattern designer, but I really liked this shirt and the way it had a yoke at the back, so you could then maybe do a stripe and do directional stripes. I've chosen a linen for this, one of the Merchant & Mills linens, and then for the skirt I've also chosen this Merchant & Mills elasticated waist skirt, which has got side seam pockets. You could use any pattern you like of course, but I just saw this and thought nice and easy, loose fitting for perambulating around the arid landscape of New Mexico. And I found this really lovely sort of blue and charcoaly check, and I thought the two of those would really look beautiful together. I probably wouldn't go for this blue check, I'd choose just maybe a black and white possibly, but I am sort of wanting to expand my colour horizons, and I have the wonderful Georgia O'Keeffe to thank for that. So there's lots of room to adapt these and pair these with other things in your wardrobe, and I really love that photo of Georgia just sitting on the roof of her house. The next look is a denim look. There's actually a couple of options, a couple of denim options that I've done for this style icon video. So I love this photo of Georgia with these bones, which she would go and find in the desert and then take home and paint from. So love that photo of her. And then in the exhibition that was put on a few years ago at Brooklyn Museum about her wardrobe and her art and her life, fashioning her life, there were her casual shirts. So these are all very sort of classic, slightly western styles. I thought the Tilly and the Buttons Rosa pattern would be really good here. I've not used this pattern, but I think it gives you really classic, quite fitted, more of an elegant silhouette for the shirts, but you could of course just choose whichever classic shirt you really like. And then for the jeans, I have thought about making these for a very long time, but I haven't done it yet. I'm kind of a bit hesitant to, because I don't really like sewing with denim particularly. But these are the Anna Allen Helene jeans. They look really nice and high rise, and you've got these sort of different options of straight leg, sort of more tapered, and then these wide leg and shorts. And then there are a couple of suggestions for denim from Merchant & Mills, sort of like a kind of more lighter sky bluey cerulean toned one, and then a darker indigo version, and then this really lovely cotton check that would make a really beautiful shirt, I thought. So I really like this outfit, but I would keep an eye out in charity shops for denim shirts. And of course you could always invest in a very classic pair of Levi's 501s. I find that they just don't come high enough on the waist for me, and I like my jeans to sort of tuck under my chin. This second denim look is the one that I'm really feeling, really liking the look of, and this fabulous picture of Georgia looking very informal with this fabulous smile look on her face. She had the most beautiful expressive face all the way through her life. I bet she was a real hoot. And she's wearing this sort of printed shirt here. So one of the things that I want to do actually is sort out my sleepwear, and I really like the Winnie pyjamas from Merchant and Mills, and I saw on their blog this sort of a piece about turning the Winnie shirt into, or wearing it, actually not even turning it, wearing it as just a normal shirt. So you can do this as a long sleeve or a short sleeve. I saw this particular blue block print pattern, which I felt was quite a good match to the shirt that she's wearing. And what I like about this Winnie is it's got slightly rounded collar, so it's a collar and revere and it's slightly rounded, which gives it just a different look. And then I highlighted the Quinn trousers in my vintage utility capsule wardrobe video. In Georgia's archive there are actually original Levi's, original jeans that she bought and wore in the 1930s, 40s and so on when she went out west, and they had side buttons, side fastenings, so I thought the Quinn trousers would look great. They seem quite high-rise, and I like the fact they've got this sort of fitting on the back, so they're very classic workwear and would look great in this denim. The other thing that you could do if you didn't want to make these trousers would be to get some of the Freddies of Pinewood classic jeans. There's a shop in Lewes I really love called Closet and Bots, and I find the Freddies of Pinewood website really daunting. There's so many different trousers and it's just not very user friendly for me, but Closet and Bots have curated and they've got a couple of styles in there in all the sizes, and I'm thinking about maybe taking a trip over there to try on some of the jeans, and it's a lovely shop anyway and well worth a visit. This next wardrobe piece would be very useful in the desert or town, wherever you are, should the weather not be on your side. And I can imagine that when the storms rolled in across New Mexico, they would be a sight to behold. So Georgia loved a cape, and there is this cape that I think she may have made herself or had made. It was on display at the Brooklyn Museum exhibition, and this is a photo of her, probably more from the 30s, wearing it over a few other things. I thought that the Vogue V9288 would be great, and I've had my eye on this pattern for a really long time, but I've never invested in it. And as I'm slowing down my sewing and really thinking about the wardrobe gaps and the things that I'm missing, one of the things that I'm thinking about now, even though we're only in July, is pieces that I'm going to need for autumn and winter. And I have never ever invested in any kind of raincoats since I lived by the sea, and like New Mexico, when the storms roll in here, it is horrific, and I really do need to think about something waterproof, and I thought this would be great. It comes in 3 different lengths. You could make it in a wool if you wanted to, like Georgia has. I thought this dry oilcloth from Merchant and Mills would be quite good. I'm not sure how swishy it would be, which might be something that would detract with oilcloth. It's a drier one, so you don't actually need to line it. I always call it oilcloth, but really it's probably called oil skim. It can leave residue, so you need to line it, and I would probably add some kind of hood here. Merchant and Mills have got a fabulous little hood, which I think is called the Esther. I didn't put it on here, but I will link it below. And it would give you this kind of tie look with a hood to keep your head dry, because really that is kind of more the point. And I need to just add, umbrellas do not work here by the sea. The wind comes in off of the sea and just kills every single brollie that I have ever tried to use. So a hood is something quite useful, but I just really like the look of this, and you can just put it on over whatever you're wearing, if you're wearing another coat even, and keep yourself nice and snuggly and stylish at the same time. Another favourite photo of Georgia is this one with her in a shirt dress, and you can see her moo cow skull up on her house, and then she's got this human skull. Don't know if it's real, or don't know if she just sort of found it. Probably need to call the FBI on that one. But she wore this shirt dress quite a lot, and it looks like it's in some kind of slubby heavy linen. I did a YouTube video tutorial called the 1939 shirt dress, which I will put a card up for, which I think goes through the process, how I actually drafted my own shirt dress, which is one of my most worn and favourite wardrobe items. And I would make it in the lovely linen, because you just cannot beat a linen dress for the summer months. And I would probably, like Georgia did, put really beautiful buttons on, maybe shell or mother of pearl or bone buttons. Just get some really beautiful buttons. This next Georgia O'Keeffe style icon look is what I'm calling her boho look, and this is about as sort of decorative boho as Georgia got, from what I can see. And I just really love this whole outfit. It really has to happen. It was sort of one of the reasons why I've got this shirt. And she's wearing this tiered skirt. I have a pattern called the Calypso skirt, which is a zero waste, sustainable, draft your own pattern. It's just a PDF, and it takes you through all the measurements you need, how to work out your measurements, and then you just draw rectangles on fabric, and then there's a step-by-step how to sew. So it's a really useful, good pattern, especially if you're a beginner. Only takes a couple of meters of fabric, and although there is a bit of a commitment to the ruffling, it doesn't take all that long. And I thought that with that, the Winnie short sleeve version by Merchant Mills would be great in the linen, so that you can wear them separately, or you can put them together and they would look like a dress. They'd look like a one piece, which is a brilliant way of extending your wardrobe. And then I thought you could put a statement belt on, and Georgia had this belt very famously by a Mexican artisan called Hector Aguilar, and he made them in the 1940s. She commissioned this belt, and I did a bit of a Google search and found that you can actually still buy this belt if you've got a spare $2,600 lying around. But one of the things that I really love about Georgia O'Keeffe is that she was really considered in what she spent her money on. So she would commission artisans, she would buy really beautiful pieces of furniture, the best fabric, beautiful buttons. Wasn't really into jewellery as such, which I really am, but she would commission pieces and then she would wear them forever. And I think that that is something I can really resonate with, because although I've bought lots of belts over my lifetime, I really just gravitate to 2 or 3, and those are the ones that I will always wear. And then what I particularly love about this belt, not that I have $2,600, is that it's very pared back. It's not overly decorated, but it still gives you this wonderful feel of the Mexican landscape and the heritage and the craftsmanship and skill of these brilliant Mexican artisans who made such beautiful pieces. So really what you're doing is you're collecting. You're not just hoarding, you're making considered choices and collecting beautiful heirloom pieces. And then to top that off, even though in my vintage utility video I chose loads of chore jackets, French inspired 30s workwear jackets, the one that I have looked at for this particular look is the Merchant & Mills Otter line, which is a PDF, and I would do that in the Panama ecru cream cotton that I used for my shepherd skirt. And then you can, like Georgia did, sort of wear this as like a suit. So you've got your formal fitted bespoke Savile Row tailored suits, but then you've also got this sort of casual workwear inspired suit inspired look. So I think I will choose this particular chore coat preferentially over and above some of those others that I selected for the vintage utility, just as a starting point really, because I really like the proportions of it when you look at the photos on the website, and it's still very boxy and square, but it's fairly fitted. This final look is based on Georgia O'Keeffe's love of wrap dresses. Later in her life she had these dresses made, copied from a Claire McCardle design that she had bought in a department store, and she was a massive wardrobe repeater, which I can totally relate to. She had them made up in all sorts of fabrics, including velvet, linen and cottons, and in all these colours that you can see on this board. And here she is looking with her back to the camera, wearing that Hector Aguilar belt and in the dress. Now, you could use any wrap dress pattern, and you could find one that is more of this dolman sleeve. It's this long dolman sleeve and wraps over the front, and then it flares out, so it's more of a trapeze shape, and I think the original dress was called the trapeze dress. I've had my eye on these paper cut patterns Aura dress, which is totally different to this one that Georgia O'Keeffe wore, but that's the whole idea of taking style and life lessons from somebody. I think that when we look at media, we're kind of encouraged to consume. This is what will make you fashionable. This is the trend. But what I tend to do, which is something that I've taken from Georgia, it's something that I did anyway, but it sort of made me realise that I do this, is that I just look at things that are new, because often I'm looking at vintage references, although I don't dress in a totally vintage way. And then I just sort of adopt elements of them. I make them work for me. I find a version of it that fits and aligns with how I feel and how I want to express myself sartorially. So what I'm really taking from this is just a wrap dress that can be a wardrobe staple that you could make in lots of colours. And I've chosen these pink fabrics, all from Merchant and Mills. They're a mixture of checks and stripes, all in these sort of pink shades, but of course you could choose whichever shade is your particular cup of tea. And I thought how lovely to make these in linens or cottons, and they'd be cool and comfortable. And you probably could do a pattern hack on this and turn it into more of an A-line or a fuller skirt, but I actually quite like this sort of straighter silhouette of this dress. This is rapidly taking top place in my to be sewn list this summer, but I also think this would look great in a velvet for maybe C-word parties later in the year. So I hope you've enjoyed spending a bit of time with Georgia O'Keeffe, style icon. Her work is incredible and she is an incredible woman. There are so many quotes and inspiring thoughts and ideas that I have learned and written down in my little scrapbook, and they really make me feel joyful, especially in moments of anxiety. One of the things, and I am probably going to massacre the quote, but Georgia O'Keeffe said that she'd been terrified every single moment of her life, but she'd never let it stop her doing what she wanted to do. I take so much heart from that quote, and the fact that she was so herself. There's nobody else who really was like her. She really knew herself, she knew what worked on her body, she knew her style. Her wardrobe seemed to give her a lot of joy, and I love this idea of repeating things that really work for you, investing in really good quality fabrics and the components, and then investing in some beautiful accessories, saving up maybe for one special thing. Maybe that Hector Aguilar belt if you happen to have quite a few thousands of pounds or dollars in your bank account. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend the time with me here in my little cottage by the sea. It's always so lovely to spend time with you and to chat with you, and I'm really heartened and full of gratitude for the really beautiful, kind comments that are coming my way. I can't tell you how full of love I am for all of you, for just being so wonderful and kind. It's really lovely in this crazy world to know that there are so many kindred spirits. Let me know your thoughts about Georgia O'Keeffe and her style, and if you've made any of these patterns, then do let me know what you thought, if there were any issues with them or if you thoroughly recommend them. I'm suggesting patterns that I haven't actually made, so I'm doing this with a bit of trepidation, but I think that they're all ones that I would like to sew, and I'd be very happy to have these clothes in my wardrobe. I hope that wherever you are, my lovelies, you're keeping very safe and well, and I shall see you soon. Till next time. Bye.